All right, thank you so much for staying with us. Now, since the repeal of the APCON Act that birthed APCON under the leadership of Director General Dr. Olalekan Fadolapo, the regulatory body has made giant strides in the industry, tackling long-standing issues like crippling industry debt, delayed payment cycle, copyright infringements, and the offshoring of production, among many others. Despite these achievements, entrenched interests persist in undermining APCON's efforts to create an ethical, accountable, and consumer-friendly advertising landscape. Additionally, APCON has also been a formidable force in curbing exploitative practices in digital advertising space, an area that had long been neglected and exploited by some predatory businesses targeting Nigerian consumers. Now, APCON's regulatory frameworks now demand transparency and accountability in digital marketing, setting standards that prioritize consumer welfare. This aligns with global approaches such as the European Union's Digital Service Act, which aims to protect users online and ensure transparency from digital platforms. Let me introduce my guest, Dr. Olalekan Fadolapo, on this side. He is the Director General, Advertising Regulatory Council of Nigeria. Thank you so much. It's good to have you here. Barrister Charles Odenigbo is also the Director General, Center for Media and Law Development. So it's a full house. We have all aspects of this in the studio today. Thank you so much. It's good to also have you here.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, let me start from this side of the table. I think there's been concerns about APCON's regulations in recent times with regards to social media and all of that. Can you just explain your position on this?
Okay, let me start by explaining the fundamentals. We will need to understand that ecosystem before we can speak to this. First of all, content is divided into three, either on the digital media space or traditional media. So content can either be information, entertainment, or advertising. Now, we don't regulate information. We don't regulate entertainment. So we only regulate advertising. Advertising on traditional media or digital media. So the balance, the word that APCON is regulating digital media is wrong. So what APCON regulates is advertising on the digital media space. That's on one part. The second part is that regulatory framework can either be self-regulation or statutory regulation. In some markets, they practice 100% self-regulation. In some markets, purely statutory regulation. However, in Nigeria, we practice dual regulatory framework, where we have some bodies coming together to do self-regulation. And we also have the federal government, by statute, establishing APCON to perform the regulatory function, which is the statutory regulation. Then again, when you move into that space, advertising regulation can be punitive or corrective. In some markets, advertising regulatory framework is punitive. And that is why you find them slamming big fine on one infringement. However, in Nigeria, we practice corrective regulatory framework. Corrected to the extent that before the action comes up, that is what, and that is why the law says before you expose an advert, either on traditional media or new media, submit it to APCON for vetting. So when you submit it, if there's any mischief, is misinformation, disinformation claim, it won't have been solved before you expose. So it is more of a corrective nature in Nigeria, not really a punitive. So advertising regulation on the digital media space. Digital media space is not new. You understand that the media is divided into two. We have the traditional media, the broadcast, which represent the radio and TV, the print, and the out-of-home, which is indoor and outdoor. So now, as far as we are concerned, there's a high level of compliance in traditional media. Again, don't forget that we have moved from the era of e-commerce into a full digital economy, where all the elements of physical market are now available. Now, in that space, there are three key stakeholders. We have the operators, who are the business people. We have the public, who are the vulnerables. And we have the government, who is the gatekeeper. Now, if the government choose as a gatekeeper to leave the operator and the vulnerables, the general public, there will be maximum exploitation of the general public who are vulnerable through advertising. So because of that, there are speed breakers, which ACON is one of them. There are agencies with oversight on the digital media space, which ACON is also one of them. And the primary purpose is to ensure that advertising is decent, legal, and not exploitative. So ACON is not regulating the digital media space. We are only concerned about the advertising that is exposed to the Nigerian market using the digital media space platform.
Interesting stuff. But can you help us explain a Nigerian advertising law, freedom of speech, and there's been a series of judgments, but the recent one?
Thank you very much. Beginning with the Nigerian advertising law, you will notice that when we look at advertising law from the perspective of Nigeria, it is the law that provides the framework by which advertising is carried out, and as well as the advertisement, which is the final product that goes out, and marketing communication. We deal with different kind of integrated marketing communication combined. So it's a very vast area. Now, if you come to Nigeria, you will see that the apex law that regulates advertising today as a law in Nigeria is the Advertising Regulatory Council of Nigeria Act 2022. Now, it became what it is today in the sense that a community of the industry were brought together under one basket. So it deals with advertising, advertisement, and marketing communication, as well as the industry as a whole, and protects vulnerable members of society as well as consumers. Now, when you are dealing with advertising law, apart from ALCON, the Advertising Regulatory Council of Nigeria being the regulator, there are other statutory bodies that plays prominent role in the industry. Take, for instance, the Banks and Other Financial Institutions Act of 2020. Now, Section 44 makes provision for financial advertisements, as well as criminal sanctions that come with it, as high as 50 million naira. Now you come to NAFDAC. NAFDAC regulates food, beverages, and so on. SON, Standard Organization, deals with standards as well as equipment. You come to the Federal Highway Act that deals with the highway advert that you put there, Federal Ministry of Work. You come to Securities and Exchange Commission Act. It deals with public offers that you issue, adverts that come. And you will notice that the new SEC Act has made more provision to help ACON in its work by regulating the type of products that you push out there. And you see all these Ponzi schemes going on. SEC has come in there because it was a free area. Now, ACON has done a lot, but with these amendments, it reinforces advertising law in Nigeria. You have things that have to do with aviation advertisement, aerial advertisement, airport advertisement, railway advertisement, inland waterways advertisement, local government that deals with permits for all the billboards that you see. That comes under the 4th schedule of the Constitution, 1K paragraph 1, deals with outdoor regulations and hoarding. So it's a lot of laws that come together, but now streamlined under the ACON Act of 2022. Don't forget that we also have common laws that we received into Nigeria that also deals with advertisement, especially those that are not under the law, but they can also be enforced through the regular courts when you seek for protection of your copyright, privacy, and a host of them. So it's a very vast area. So if you are looking at Nigeria advertising law, it begins with the act, but it covers other laws that deals with advert in one way or the other.
Very wide, I must say. Let me come back to DG. Now, you've always insisted with regards to use of local talents. Let me ask, can you explain the relevance of this? Because I know you've received pushbacks with regards to that.
Wow. First of all, let me state this, that the local content policy of ACON is not a directive from ACON, but a directive from the federal government. There is a directive from the Minister of Information and National Orientation in line with the local policy of the federal government.
Nigeria First policy?
Yes, that federal government directed all the agencies that we should look inward, promote talent, and see how, as regulator, we can develop our sector. Now, let me give you a small example. The Nigerian advertising ecosystem and how it's obtainable elsewhere. If you want to do an advert, you need a model. Because you need a model, you need a makeup artist. And you need a costumier. You need a voiceover artist. You need a production engineer. You need a sound engineer. You need a light engineer. So it means you need a village to produce an advert.
Yes.
I don't know how far true this is, but that Buddha Ultimate Search advert that was done several years ago, if I am right, which I think I am right, the record or report or news was that they spent £1 million on that advert. I don't know how far true, but that was the information. Now, just oppose that to today and look at how much does it cost, how much is pounds today, and put it in £1 million. So sometimes, if you want to produce an advert, depending on the budget, the size, and the brief, you can spend as much as 750 million naira, 1 billion naira to produce an advert. That's on one part. Now, you want to produce an advert for Nigerian market. Don't forget some elements. First of all, advert is driven by market. In terms of population, Nigeria, as of today, is over 240 million people, the largest, highest in Africa. In terms of internet penetration, if I am right, the records also says that we have over 120 million Nigerians that are active internet users at any time. Now, if you put that, some countries that are their entire budget, their entire population is less than 50% of the Nigerian active internet users.
True.
Now, you want to develop an advert for the Nigerian market. Now, you now take this particular advert to another country. Now, you have produced that material with 1 billion naira, 2 billion naira. You are leaving that country. You collected your commercial in a flash drive. You are flying back to Nigeria after investing 1 billion in that economy. You did not use our model. You did not use our voiceover artists. Are you saying that the ladies, the men in Nigeria are not beautiful or handsome enough to grace your product? Are you saying you cannot find similar voice in Nigeria? Are you saying the production cannot be done in Nigeria? Are you saying we can't have an ambience that speaks to your brief? Now, you have done this in another clime and market. You are flying back to Nigeria with a flash drive. Now, how do we, as Nigeria, and the Nigerian economy take benefit from it?
That project.
So, the minister, Alhaji Mohammed Idris, directed that we need to look inward and we need to ensure strict adherence to local policy in terms of growing the local talent. So what we demand from people is, if you are going to sell your product in Nigeria, please use Nigerians to speak to us. Don't just go and bring anything and anyhow and throw it at us. So when you are submitting your advert for vetting, we demand from you, your NIN, you need to give us proof that this thing is done and is going to grow the Nigerian advertising ecosystem. So that is the trust of the local content policy.
Interesting stuff, I must say. Back to Advertising Offence Tribunal. I read about this yesterday. Can you explain the AOT and its constitutionality, power and mandate?
Okay, I will explain that, but there is something I omitted.
Okay, the judgment.
On free speech.
Okay.
You mentioned free speech,
yes,
especially freedom of expression under Section 39 of the Constitution.
I will
come to AOT.
Okay.
Now, you will notice that in the case of Digi Bay, that's Betway Nigeria and another versus the Attorney General of the Federation and ACON, It's a judgment of 2025 in April. But for those who are watching and may be interested, the suit number is FHC/L/CS/1262/2024. Now, in that judgment, you will notice that the court held that ACON is the body that has the power to issue query to those who violate the advertising law in Nigeria. And it also gave recognition to the fact that AOT has power to do what? To fine, to impose the penalties stipulated in the Act. Any contravention of ACON Act, the code, and the rest of them, AOT has power to do that. Now, there is what we call free speech under freedom of expression. There's also what we call commercial speech. We cannot combine these two together. Your freedom of speech is not inhibited by anybody. But when it is not, when you abuse freedom of speech, then something needs to be done about it. That's where Section 45 of the same fundamental human rights come in under the same constitution. So you cannot just come and make any kind of statement or claim that you cannot substantiate, all in the name of what? Freedom of expression. So I think that case made it clear that ACON, as a regulatory body, can regulate advertising in Nigeria, advertisement and marketing communication. And the AOT, as an other independent body, has the power of criminal sanction. Now, AOT was established under the Act by Section 37. And it has criminal jurisdiction throughout the Federation of Nigeria. It operates as well where there is any missing link inside the procedure, the rules of procedure, which we call practice direction. It has recourse to the Administration of Criminal Justice Act. So the prevalent aspect of what it wants to do, it goes to the Administration of Criminal Justice Act to treat it. Now, this body was established to take care of exclusive original jurisdiction with respect to advertising offenses in Nigeria as provided under the Act. It has that jurisdiction. Now, any decision it takes, if it delivers a decision, grants an order, appeal lies to Court of Appeal of Nigeria. It goes straight to Court of Appeal. So the body has come in to provide a platform where a specialized case that does not have to linger in regular courts should be given express attention under that part of tribunal. And you will notice that this is anchored on Supreme Court judgment in the case of Federal Republic of Nigeria versus Solomon, 2018. You can see that in the 7 NWLR, part 1618. So if you read that judgment, the Supreme Court said, look, under Section 6, subsection 5J of the Constitution, Constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria, the National Assembly can make laws and also create tribunals for the purpose of those particular laws. That was what Supreme Court settled in the case of Federal Republic of Nigeria versus Solomon. So the tribunal has come, and since inception now, over 300 matters have been taken there, have been tried, and they are still under prosecution for the time being. So it has come, and the essence is very clear, to bring sanity into the way and manner adverts are done in Nigeria without congesting the regular courts.
Interesting stuff. Let me now ask your thoughts on the present state of advertising practice in Nigeria and the industry itself. How do you see that?
First of all, I'll tell you that there's a lot of improvement from where we used to be. Now, advertising regulation has also improved. For example, let me just say some explanation. Now, in the digital space, you have a father, or you have a mother and a daughter. The daughter is maybe less than 20 years, and the mother is over 40. The two of them are in the same room. You know the way the digital marketing space is wired. I can do an advert. I will target it to people that are lower than 20 years.
Yes.
Then the mother, who is also in the same room, will be looking at another advert. Now, there's a lot of mischief and shenanigans, most especially in the digital media space. Unfortunately, you will be shocked with the level of misinformation, deceptive advertising. We recently was talking about an advert which has to do with abortion, which is sent to Nigeria. Now, we need to increase our capacity in monitoring and enforcement. You can be in another country, as close as Ghana, and you'll be throwing adverts into Nigeria. Now, if you check most of these online vendors, in most cases, they don't have a physical address. In most cases, they don't have a physical address. During the period of e-commerce, you can track down transactions. You can track down who you are talking to. But in this era of full digital economy, if the government is not looking out and protecting people, you will discover how much did we, if I am right, the loss on CBEC Ponzi scheme is over 1 trillion naira.
Yeah, true.
These things are driven by adverts. You know how many people have lost their entire investments. So what we are doing is trying to improve our regulatory and enforcement. That's one part. The second part is the business of advertising. In the business of advertising, there are 3 key stakeholders. They have the advertiser, the agency, and the media. Don't forget that media thrives on advertising revenue.
Indeed.
Because in some cases, I'll tell you, for maybe government agencies, maybe 70–80% of their income is from advertising. But from the private sector, in most cases, over 90%. True. Now, if advertising business is not done within the normal regulatory framework, how do you want to thrive? The simplest example that comes to mind is the payment threshold. Globally, there's payment threshold. In UK, it's 30 days. In Europe, it's 30 days. In some African countries, most Africa is 45 days. But when you come to Nigeria, somebody will be giving you a PO of 180 days, 120 days. Meaning that if you buy media, they will pay you back in 180 days. 180 days is like 6 months. 6 months. Now, imagine a client that say, bill me every quarter. Meaning that January, February, March, the job you do for that client, you will bill them in April because you are billing them on quarterly. And you have an agreement of 120 days or 180 days. So you bill them in April for job done in January. When will you, what is the time value of money? So there is need for regulatory framework. NICOM, some years ago, came with a zero debt policy for the Nigerian insurance industry because they discovered that people even buy policy on credit. So that is one of the essence of a regulator, trying to moderate the entire system. Now, we are looking out. We are always on our toes to ensure that there is sanity in that space. For example, there's a pitch rejection fee. There's disengagement protocol. Disengagement protocol simply means that you can fire your agency. Yeah. However, if you are firing your agency, make sure you close the account and bring the business to a closure. You can't be owing me 500 million. You fire me, move to agency B, hold the agency B 500 million. You fire. That is the essence of regulation. If agency C is coming into the there must be some sanity, there must be some ethical gate requirement that this person needs to comply with. So we are involved in so many things, not just vetting or exposure. We need to ensure that that space is not only seen, it's also adding to the entire effort, the basket of efforts from the federal government in ensuring. Don't forget that advertising is an economic enabler. Economic enabler to the extent that anything that happens, a bank can declare 1 billion or 1 trillion. the advertising activities that generate that money, you will be imagining how big it is. So you cannot just leave that space unregulated. So we're talking about the business of advertising. We're talking about regulating even the advertisement itself. So it's a huge thing, but for me, I think there's a lot, but we have capable hands within the agency, and we're pushing the frontiers.
We have like 2 minutes to go. I'm going to leave that to Barrister to take us through engagement on these regulations and all of that. And do you think the space is over-regulated? What more?
No, the space is under-regulated. We are still scratching
the surface.
Because when you look at the structure of advertising law worldwide, the fundamental elements of advertising law worldwide is that all adverts must be legal, decent, honest, and truthful. That is it. So if you come here and you say, is it over-regulated, the quantum of abuse going on in the media space in the name of advertisement is scary. You seated here may be scared of what your daughter or son may be watching in a skit. And what they will come as if they are doing entertainment, and the next thing is they will position a material that your little child cannot explain. So when we come to regulation, whether it's been over-regulated, the digital space is too wide. And then we have offshore adverts that are being thrown into Nigeria. And you now look at the tribunal now having to go after offshore adverts that are destroying children in Nigeria, that are deceiving people in Nigeria. We cannot be talking of over-regulated. We're talking of what? Under-regulated, because the greatest culprits are found in the digital space. TVC is easy to reach. An on-air personality that doesn't know that the new definition of advertising includes on-air personality, hyping. An on-air personality cannot hype a product under Section 63 of the new Act. Because what you're hyping, is it in the category of products or services that require the approval of the advertising standard panel? So it is under-regulated. We are still scratching.
Okay, the last minute.
Okay, sorry, just let me put in some things there.
Yes,
Number one, I need to make some clarity.
Yes,
I don't vet adverts.
Okay.
We don't vet adverts. There's a body which is the creation of the law.
Yes.
It is called Advertising Standard Panel.
That's correct.
Okay.
That body has relevant stakeholders, the organized private sector, regulatory agencies as member. It has 20 people. So it is not like you are submitting your advert to ACON.
Yes.
One director or somebody sit down and look at it. If they don't like your face, they cancel it. No. There is a body that is a creation of the law. And that body is responsible for vetting of all advertisements. That is number one. Number two is that we only have the ASP Secretariat, which is led by the Director of Regulation. So what they do is to provide support for that ASP. Now, that ASP Secretariat, there are 3 procedures. We have what we call pre-vetting, vetting, and post-vetting. So when you send your material in, they are the one that will receive it. They will do some alignment and check before they set it for vetting. Now, when they send it for vetting, they come back and check the alignment and possibly compliance before they issue certificate. That's on one part. The second part is that we have what we call vettable and non-vettable material. As of today, we have reduced the non-vettable materials to just 3. Obituary, vacancy, and financial report for banks. Even now, there's a push that the financial report should be vetted. Now, for goodwill messages, before now, we don't vet goodwill message. What is it there to vet in Merry Christmas? XYZ Limited, Happy New Year. But some few years ago, we had a situation where one bank wake up and said, and rise like an agege bread.
That's it.
Now you can imagine the controversy that advert generated.
Yeah.
The year after, there was this FMCG that also. So those things come to play, and that is why we need to remove the non-vettable and we need to
I think we need to have a part 2 of this conversation.
Thank you very much.
Yes, because ignorance
we need to have,
of the law is not an excuse.
Indeed. Barrister Charles Odenigbo is the Director General Center for Media Law and Development, CMLD. Dr. Lale Konfado-Olakpo is Director General Advertising, Regulatory Council of Nigeria. Thank you so much for coming into the studio. That's our show today. I'll see you tomorrow. The market is positive 0.30%, but we'll take it up tomorrow on the show. Thank you. I'll see you. Stay safe.